Hi, everyone. Welcome to Korean Podcast with Miss Vicky. I'm Miss Vicky, and today I'm joined by Billy, who I think needs no introduction to our Korean learners. But just in case there are some listeners who do not know about him, he is from the US and he teaches the Korean language on YouTube. And his channel has more than.
Hello.
His
I'm interrupting. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're not. No, you're not. I love him.
안녕하세요. I'm Billy
안녕하세요.
Go from YouTube. You might have
Mhm.
seen some of my videos. I've been teaching Korean online since now 2010. So this is actually my 10-year anniversary. I
Wow.
think next month. Yes.
오, 박수. 맞아요. His channel, 네, now has more than, is it 600?
It's
Not
not
yet.
600 yet.
But
It's
you're getting there.
500. Wait, hold on. 제대로 자랑하고 싶은데요. 536,378
Wow.
as of right
Mm-hmm.
now. 네.
Right. So you can tell that he's one of the most well-known Korean teachers on YouTube.
Yes, one of
So
them.
yes, but you're aiming to become the best
I'm
teacher.
I'm yeah, I just have to take down Hyunwoo-쌤 first. So we'll see how that goes.
둘 다 좋은 아주 훌륭한 선생님이라고 생각해요. 그리고
감사합니다.
아무튼 아무튼 welcome Billy. So
Thank you. Yeah.
we're gonna talk about many different topics today, most of which are gonna be about languages and culture. And by the end of the episode, we'll also talk about Billy's personal
Oh no.
family
Oh
family
my.
life
Yes.
because
Will we? Yes.
yes, because he has a Korean wife and in-laws and a bilingual
He
son, right?
does. I never knew that.
So
I should probably, yeah. Oh no, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like this is something that's less known about you, right? Because I honestly, like 2 years ago when we were having a collaboration, I did not know
Mhm.
that you had a son.
I think I've made only 3 videos with my kid, or 4 videos
Mm,
over my all of my videos I've made. And
mhm.
so I'm not surprised when people watch those videos for the first time and they say, "Oh my God, Billy, I didn't know you had a kid." I have
맞아요.
758 videos. So even if someone has been watching most of my videos, they probably didn't know that. So yeah,
Mhm,
they're always
mhm,
surprised to find out. Yes, I have a Korean wife. Yes, I have a kid who speaks
mhm.
Korean and speaks English.
We figured that, your family life kind of fits into the category of language and culture as well. So, yeah, we thought it would be actually, I thought it would be an interesting topic to include. 네, and Billy had no choice but to
Exactly.
accept.
Yeah. I have to
네.
accept all of this. You sent me the paper. I signed the contract.
좋아요. 그러면 without further ado, let's get right into it. So, Billy, first we're going to talk about
Yes.
how we started learning our second language, right? And by second language,
You mean Korean.
I mean the language that we speak the most
Yes.
fluently, aside from our first language. So
Okay.
that's
Oh, okay.
Korean for
My
you, and
second language was
mhm.
actually French in high school,
Oh,
but
really?
I didn't get good at it. So I don't count that. And then I kind of forget about that one. And my
Hmm.
real second language is Korean now.
So that's Korean for you, and that's English for me. So yeah, we're gonna talk about how we started our second language and what our overall journey of becoming a bilingual speaker was like. 네. So Billy, if you don't mind, would you like to go
Yeah.
first?
It's a really long story, so I always give the short version. But
Sure.
I have been interested in Korean for a while. I started in 2005 officially, but I had started learning a
Wow.
little bit more before then. I had a few Korean friends. I had a couple of there's a Korean girl I really liked, so that was motivation for me in the beginning also. But
Sure. Oh.
I had a Korean science teacher once, and I remember learning some phrases. I learned a phrase 일 더하기 1은 11, and I didn't understand it at all. But a Korean told me to say it to my science teacher, and so I said it to my science teacher, thinking I thought it would be some hilarious joke. And and my
It
science teacher was
is.
like, "Uh-huh, okay, uh-huh." And 근데 so that didn't go over so well. But I did learn a few other things, like 좋아해, 사랑해,
Mm.
um, a few things that I remember learning some Konglish too. And one of my friends told me that the Korean word for fork is just poke. And I was like, wow, I wonder if there are other English words that are in Korean that they used. I didn't know. But then in early 2005, I got a Korean grammar book. Like I got a self-study book, which I still have, and it was terrible, but that's how I started. And I just started trying to practice. So I had a couple friends I was trying to practice with. A girl that I liked, I tried to practice with and failed. Another girl who taught me the alphabet while we were sitting in the cafeteria one day at college, and she tried to explain how to write all the letters, and I understood nothing, but I kept nodding and saying, "Yeah, I see, I see." And so it was a really uphill battle. It was really difficult, I remember, and I didn't feel like I was making very much progress because the Koreans I knew, they already spoke like perfect English. They already spoke really good English. So I was thinking, like, who can I practice with? I don't know who I can practice with. And it wasn't until later when I eventually decided, okay, I'll go over to Korea for a bit. It wasn't until I actually got to Korea that I had many opportunities to practice Korean. And I think once I was in Korea, and then when I was there it was a bit over 2 years. And when I was in Korea, I really quickly started to learn, and that I had so many chances just to talk with people on a regular basis. And I think being in Korea was probably the most effective part for my Korean learning journey at that point. And I was able to make a lot of friends, meet a lot of people. Like just randomly, I would talk to people a lot. I would go to the park sometimes, and I would just hang out with the old men at the park because I didn't have anything else to do. I would play 장기 아시죠? 장기.
당연하죠. 장기도 했어요? With grandpa?
장기도 했었어요. 예, 지금 어떻게
오.
하는지 다 까먹었는데 그때 그 당시에는 꽤 그냥 잘 하는 편이 아닌 그냥 아, 했어요. 할 줄은
아,
알았어요.
룰만
예, 예,
알고.
룰만 알고. And it was really fun. I used to play that with them. I would research strategies on the internet and then go try it. And I would always
Wow.
lose, but I would get better and better at playing that game. And it was a lot of fun. Um, I would just have regular friends that I would just meet up with and we'd talk. And I was fortunately able to meet many Korean people who didn't want to speak in English with me. So that was great for me. They just wanted to be my friend. Like they didn't want to use me for English practice necessarily. They just wanted to speak with me and hang out. So that was pretty much most of what I did for learning, was just speaking with lots of people. And then of course, studying. I had a few other grammar books that I got in Korea. I studied a lot of vocabulary. I made flashcards. I did vocabulary tests. And yeah, that was most of how I started. But so I lived in Korea, and then great. Yeah, now I can speak conversational Korean. I wasn't great, but I could speak conversational Korean by around, let's say, 2008. I was okay. But then I didn't do anything with Korean for like a year. I came back to the US and I'm like, okay, I didn't really have very many Korean friends. I just had a few. And I started to think, well, okay, well, that was fun, but now, let's move on with my life. And I stopped using Korean very much. I didn't have a use for it except occasionally at work. If I would run into a customer that was speaking in Korean, then I could help them. But I really felt my Korean started to go downhill. And I couldn't remember, like, oh, wait, what do I say to someone to get their attention? Is it 실례합니다? No, I don't think so. 저기요, that's right. So I had to then kind of relearn it again, not completely, but I had to go back and take grammar lessons again and practice again a lot to get back up to where I was when I was living in Korea. So yeah, that's the short story. It goes on a lot longer depending on what year we're talking about. But yeah, that's the short story for how I learned Korean to where I was at. What was your story?
So for me, I started quite young. I started in the year 2000, and that was when I was 7 in international age. 만나이.
Wow.
만나이로 7살.
You're that young? Wow, that's right. I forgot how young you are. 7. Okay.
근데 I'm not actually that young. I'm turning 30 soon. 네.
It's still okay. Well, I'm 36, so
I mean,
you're still
yeah.
young. Yeah.
빌리 씨는
Okay.
엄청 선배, 대선배. 있고, 네.
예, 날 많이
그래도
먹었어요. 저.
아니, 아니요, 많이는 아니고. 네.
아,
아무튼 제가 이제 초등학교 2학년, I was second grade in
yes.
elementary school. So I actually didn't start like because I wanted to, but like voluntarily. It was actually my mom who had me start learning English because she was really interested in, educating her children English back then.
Mhm.
She like directly taught me from basic to intermediate English grammar, including like reading the alphabets, phonics, and I
So your
remember
mom knows English well too, or just basic English?
she majored in English back in college.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, back then
Wow.
she was quite good at English. Now she forgot most of them because she hadn't been using it for a while, for a very long time actually. But
Mhm.
네, it was my mom who I learned English from at
Wow.
first. 그리고 네, 그때 이제 엄마가 I remember she bought a lot of books, including some textbooks, cassette tapes. 그때는 이제 인터넷이 막 유튜브 이런 거
예, 예.
없었으니까,
그쵸, 그쵸.
카세트 테이프랑 videos, DVDs. 그게 이제 they were mostly consumed in the US by 그 young
I
native
see, I
speakers.
see.
Because she
그러니까
wanted me
원어민들을
to.
위한
그렇죠.
영어를 배우기 위한 그런 그런
그렇죠.
내용. 예, I see, I
맞아요,
see.
맞아요, 맞아요. 왜냐면 이제 because you wanted me to get that secondhand exposure to American
Uh-huh.
culture and education so that I could learn English more effectively. 그러다가 이제 then in middle school, I stopped actively studying English or engaging in English activities because
Mhm.
my mom again thought that I should I should focus more.
Blaming everything on our parents.
No, no.
다
I'm
부모
not
탓이야.
blaming. I'm not blaming. She's actually helped me a lot there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I was a little kid. I didn't know what was best for me. So my mom was sort of my decision maker for me. I'm
Sure,
not
sure,
sure.
yeah.
No, it's not necessarily a good thing, but for me, I think that was
Mhm.
pretty much needed. So my
Mhm.
mom thought that I should focus more on my schoolwork other than like solely on English
Okay.
because English was not taught very actively in schools back in the days. So most of the English activities I had done was like after school activities. So I didn't do well on like schoolwork or other
Mhm.
subject. 그래서 네, 엄마 thought I should focus more on other subjects. So my level of engagement to English had been quite low in my middle school years. And then in
Mhm.
high school, 고등학교 가서는 surprisingly my English started, coming back, and especially my writing and my speaking
Uh-huh.
skills were getting better and better. And at first I thought it was so weird. Like, why is it
Yeah.
suddenly getting better when I'm not even like actively
Mhm.
practicing my output skills? And back then I thought it was because, I grew smarter,
You're
but
right. I'm smart now.
that's what I thought. But looking back, I think it was more because I was reading so much more in
Mhm.
English because I was preparing for like, preparing to go to university that I wanted to go
Mhm.
through some English tests that I had to take. 그래서 I had to
Mhm.
read a
Right.
lot of
수능
English
얘기하시는
passages.
거예요?
아, 수능
Or a different
말고
one?
수능도
아.
수능이고 수능 패스지도 도움 많이 됐어요. 그것도
Mm.
that's after all reading. 근데
Right.
이제 다른
All reading,
시험들
yeah.
다른 시험들 준비하느라 이제 많이 읽었고 그래서 네, 많이 늘었어요. 네. 그리고 나서 이제 대학교 와서는 in university I had more chances to meet native speakers. So overall, English really opened doors to a lot of opportunities for me, including university admission, traveling with more convenience and fun, and socializing and learning new things. And it's also a big part of my job now and how I make a living with. So yeah,
What's that?
although I mean I teach Korean, right? I teach Korean in English
Right, right.
and I teach English to Korean students. So
Ah,
English is just everything about my job.
I
음,
see, I see.
그래서
Do you work at
네.
like Pagoda or YBM or one of those
아,
places?
아니요. 그렇게
그런 거
크고,
아니고요.
네, 저는 좀 introvert라서
예.
엄청 큰 무대에서 이렇게 일하는 거 잘 안 맞아요. 네.
What's your MBTI? I want
아,
to know what your MBTI is.
MBTI가 제가 원래는
Can I wait? Let me
INFP.
get. Maybe I
You
should
can guess.
guess.
You can
Maybe I should
guess.
guess.
Yes.
Okay, you're
Yes.
definitely I.
Yes.
Um, let's see. I Oh, I was gonna guess INFP.
Close.
Close? Okay, okay.
I used to be an INFP for more than
Oh,
10 years.
that's
So
what you used to be. Okay, okay.
yeah, the first time I took the test was 2013, and since then I've
Hmm.
always been an INFP. But these days, ISFP가 계속
You're
나와요.
ISFP. Okay. Still
네.
similar, very similar.
필리씨는 뭐예요? MBTI
Oh,
뭐예요?
I'm also IS. I'm ISFJ.
아, 진짜요?
Yeah.
오, ISFJ구나.
Yeah,
오.
yeah. A lot of people are ISFJ too, but when I tell people they don't believe me, I guess. But yeah, I'm definitely I.
필리씨는
Hmm.
그럼 I가 몇 퍼센트 나와요?
I'm like I think I'm like 100%. I don't know. I
아,
remember
진짜요? 아닌 것
this is the
같은데?
same when I was a high school student. I took the MBTI test. This was before it
음.
was popular, but and I got the same result as a high schooler. So I used to tell people I was ISFJ, and they would say, "Oh, you should take it again. Maybe you changed." So I thought, "Oh yeah." So I took it last
아,
year. I tried it again last summer, and I'm still ISFJ.
아,
Nothing changed.
진짜요?
Yeah.
오, 좋아요. Consistent personality 좋은 것 같아요.
Yeah, I guess I
네.
haven't changed in my personality. I don't know if that's good or bad. I
아,
should probably change in some ways though, but
근데
um
그 J quality가 진짜 좋은 것 같아요. It means you're organized, you like to plan things ahead, you're
yes,
good at
yes,
meeting
very
deadlines.
yes, very organized. I have my calendar. I'm already planning things for like my Korea trip
와우.
next year in summer. I have some stuff already planned. Like I already
와.
bought my ticket for that last month. And yeah, I like to plan and write things down and do it in advance because if I don't plan things, and it's the same with my Korean studies, but if I don't plan things, I feel like
음,
it's possible that I could get to that day or get to that time and I could change my mind, or I feel like,
mhm.
oh, I did it. I did a good job. It's okay. But when I have it on my calendar, like it tells me like do this today. And I'm like, okay, I did it. Or I have to do it. So I do it. And it just helps
와.
me keep organized. So I'll write everything down. And then I don't have to worry like, oh, what am I doing next week? Oh, I can't. Oh, I think I have this and this and this next week. I'm going to be so busy. But I can look at my calendar and I can see exactly what I have to do. And I can realize like, oh, I actually
음.
have tons of time. So yeah, that's my style.
근데 이제 MBTI가 P인 사람들은 P's like me tend to be
Mm-hmm.
more spontaneous and they kind of go with the flow with things. So that's good
Oh,
sometimes,
okay.
but they have trouble, planning or meeting deadlines. So they find it hard to stick to what they thought they should stick to.
Here we
그래서
have ISFP. Sorry, ISFP, right? So it
yes.
says
Oh my God,
ISS.
you're reading my
I have
description?
I'm reading your description, so I know
Oh
everything
my
about you.
gosh.
It says
Oh
they are
no.
peaceful, easygoing people. They kind of have they're just laid back, really relaxed. They like taking things at their own pace, and
음,
they like to focus on where they are right now. Like they live in the
음,
moment. But
음.
it says, however, ISPs are a little difficult to build a close relationship with. They have a very
음,
small amount of friends, and
that's
they'll
true.
keep them for a long time. Is this all accurate?
Yes, that's all accurate. 네,
Okay.
진짜 저 빌리 씨가 seeing through me 하는 줄 알았어요. 네.
I can
와.
see you. Yeah. Uh, and that so that let's see. Famous ISPs. They list some. Audrey Hepburn. Wow.
아,
Okay.
진짜요? 오, that's an
Yeah.
honor.
And Michael Jackson. uh,
음.
I love his music. Okay. Paul McCartney, Marilyn
와우.
Monroe, and Elizabeth Taylor.
진짜요?
These are some famous people that are ISFPs. 이라고 나와요.
오,
I
오,
don't know if it's true.
그렇군요.
I think so.
오, 음.
Let's see. Other ISFJs looks like Tiger Woods,
아, 진짜요?
Rosa Parks. I don't know if you know Rosa Parks, but
Of
she's
course,
famous.
she's
Okay.
she's black activist, right?
Yeah, she was on the
당연히
bus. Yeah,
알죠.
that's the whole
당연히
story with that.
알죠.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I have my own downsides too. Why are we talking about MBTIs?
재밌네요.
Everyone should
재밌네요.
do an MBTI though.
음,
You can learn a little bit about their personality by asking them their MBTI and sharing
맞아요.
your MBTI with them. It's a fun thing you can do. So Koreans might ask you what your MBTI is. Don't say
음,
I don't know. You should find out and tell them. It'll be a nice conversation starter. See, we're even using it. We're talking about MBTI right now.
그러네요. That's a good tip. 한국인들이 MBTI 진짜 좋아하거든요. 그래서, yeah, I agree. It's gonna be a really good conversation opener and an
I think
icebreaker.
so.
네.
Yes. So yeah, definitely know your MBTI and learn your blood type too. But MBTI is more useful, I think.
맞아요. It's very scientific too.
Yes.
So, 그러면 빌리 씨, 우리가 sidetrack 너무 많이 했으니까
Yes.
이제 let's
We're
get back
still
on track.
we're still
We're
on the
still in
first
number
topic
one.
of today.
Yes. 그러면 이제 number two, question number two로 넘어가 볼게요. 그럼 what do you think, is the best tip or best learning method that helped improve your personal fluency?
I kind of mentioned it for when I was kind of explaining learning Korean, but it was just actually using it. And I still find like when I was first living in Korea and today, it's been the same. The times that I get the most improvement is when I have spent a lot of time using something that I'm learning. When I'm studying vocabulary, I have like a vocabulary deck that I do. And I do maybe a review of like 60 or 70 words a day. So it's not really a lot. These aren't new. It's not 60, 70 new words, but it's maybe 10 words that are new and the rest are review. But just doing that review doesn't really let me get better at Korean. But then when I'm talking with someone and I find, I need this word in this sentence, and I can remember, I actually learned that. I reviewed that in my deck, my vocabulary deck last week. Then I use it once and now I have it. Now it's in my brain and I've got that word anytime I want. I'm trying to think of a recent example. Because I'll do, let me actually, I can pull up my vocabulary deck right now. Okay. So I recently earlier this year, I started learning 한자 성어. So these are like the 4-character Chinese idioms. And
맞아요.
I only knew the basic ones before, like the ones like 일석이조, the ones that everyone knows, 일문 일답, but 작심삼일. But then I started learning a lot more. So like things like 진수성찬, here we go, 오십보 백보, 삼척동자, 3355. Like these, they're common, but they're less, but not everyone in the world knows it. 속수무책. And I started learning all of these. And if I just use it like one time, like I think 백년해로 is like, 백년해로하다 is like to live happily with, happily ever after, to live really happily with someone. And I learned it, but I thought, I'm never going to use it. But I used it once jokingly with a friend. And after that, it's in my, like, I have it in my brain. I don't have to think about it. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to memorize a word. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm just saying something from a dictionary. If I use it, I can actually use it like I had it in my vocabulary the whole time, just because I actually was able to utilize that in a real conversation. So I think really just using the things that you're learning. So making sentences, speaking or writing, just something like that is going to be a good way to make sure you remember things outside of your vocabulary deck. When you're making a sentence, you don't want to stop and say, wait, hold on, I know that word. What was that word? 뭐였지? 뭐더라? 잠깐만요. Like, you can't tell them that. It kills the conversation. So you need to use it once or twice, and then that way you can use those kind of words in your regular conversation.
맞아요. 그러니까 keep activating like the part of your brain that's in charge of your Korean. And keep using it. Keep familiarize yourself with the language.
Yes.
그게 진짜 중요한 것 같아요. 맞아요.
What about you? Is it the same, or did you have a different?
네, 저도 비슷하죠, 사실. 레벨마다 다를 수 있는데 it's different for learners of different levels, but I think for beginners, many people neglect the importance of foundation, like the basics. 그게 진짜 중요하거든요, because from there, once you have built such understanding and foundation like firmly in your system, from there it becomes easier to get the hang of what to pay attention to as you get to higher and higher level. 그리고 it also takes, less effort later on when your Korean gets rusty, when your Korean or English gets rusty, it takes less effort to get it back, regain fluency and get back on track. 그래서 basics 진짜 중요해요. Whether that's grammar, basic words, or how the language works in general. 그거 진짜 중요하고, 그리고 intermediate level 같은 경우에는 사실 이제 I think a lot of learners tend to focus on the need to practice speaking only. And I agree, speaking is very important. And with more practice, you do improve. There's no denying that. But speaking practice alone without honing your other skills, like your reading and listening skills, for example, has its limits, and it'll only get better to a certain extent. So
that's a good point. As being a Korean teacher, I've run into lots of people who try to go that route. They try to, they say, I don't need to study the basic grammar. I just need to speak it. I just need to use it. I just need to read it. That's it. Like they'll try to say, oh, I read the whole series of Harry Potter in Korean. So, and they'll post it on their Instagram or something. And I'm not making fun of people who do that. That's fine. That's great. It would, if you're practicing and studying normally, then that's great. But some people would do just that and feel like that means that now they are at that level. Like now they can read Korean at at the high school level or something. And no, like you can't just get good at Korean, or at least you can't get good at Korean efficiently by just consuming Korean media, just watching dramas, just trying to speak with your friends on Kakao. You have to also do some basics. Like if you want to learn how to play piano, do you just sit down and practice, a really complicated piano piece all day? If you do that, you might get good at playing that one piece, but you're not going to know how to play the piano.
Exactly.
No, you start off, you learn scales, you learn the notes, you learn how to do, and you do that for 5 hours a day, and your family hates you, but that's how you do it. So it's same for Korean. So yeah, I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
So it's not like you get better at speaking and then you're not really good at reading. No, it's really all connected. You get better at each part, each department all together to gain fluency.
So you don't get fluent just by doing one part of what fluency is.
그렇죠. Exactly. 네, 맞아요. Thanks for 맞아요. Like summarizing it.
Yeah, that's what you're saying is, you can't just do one thing and expect to get better all around.
맞아요. So let's move on to question number 3. What we still find challenging in our second language.
I've been studying for 17 years now, so obviously people think, oh, Billy, he must be perfect. He must sound like a native at this point. Like, no, it's still, I still find more things that I am lacking and new things that I can learn. So I said that I was learning 한자성어 lately. So I completed a full book of 한자성어. I think there's like 160 in there or something. And that's great, but that doesn't mean that because I finished that, now I'm a master at 한자성어. No, it means I know the basic ones that Koreans know, like the most basic ones. If I really wanted to master that, I would have to learn another, 3, 4, 500. I don't know how many there are. And I think just what I find challenging lately is really just vocabulary, general verbs, expressions, because even if I can speak Korean, that doesn't mean I know every way of saying everything. It means I can trick people into thinking that I can do that, even though, when you speak a second language, what you're doing is you're thinking in that language using what you know. And when you do that, you sound fluent. No matter if you know a few thousand words or 10,000 words, you're going to sound fluent. So I'm still trying to learn more vocabulary words. Like there are always more vocabulary words that I don't know that I'm still learning. Let me give you an example of some of the words that I'm learning lately. Okay, 저수지, reservoir of water. I learned this one, I think last year. Never used it, but I've seen it a couple times. Here we go. 핏자국. This is from a video game. 핏자국, like a blood stain. So it was from like a horror detective video game. 난용종. This was a book about chickens, and so 난용종 would be like a bird, for something that's for breeding eggs. And like these are words like you don't need them until you need them. And I can say all these in English, but then in Korean, it's like if you don't know that word, you just have to you might just have to think about how you can speak around not knowing a complete word. And that's frustrating for me. I want to know, for example, if you say your stomach's hurt, if I was a beginner, I could say 배가 아파요. But if I was speaking English, I wouldn't say my stomach hurts. Maybe I want to say 배가 욱신거려요. My stomach is like, it's aching. Like it's not just in pain, but like it's like throbbing, like do do do, like it hurts. And that's a different word in Korean. So I could just say 배가 너무 아파요. And that's fine. But sometimes I might want to express that it's a more of like a, pulsing pain, like it's different kind of pain. And then you have to learn the word for that. Then you have to practice the word for that. So that's a long answer, but that's what I find challenging is still just learning new vocabulary to expand what I know and to sound more fluent. And that's pretty much a never-ending journey.
One good thing about knowing many vocabularies is that you don't have to speak around it and you can be more concise with the way you deliver your message. 그래서
Yes.
그게 진짜 좋은 것 같아요. 근데 of course, I still have many words that I don't know in English. When I watch drama or read books, there are many words that I've never heard of in my entire life.
Right.
그런 것들, 그런
well,
것들 많아요.
if I watch like I was watching a medical drama earlier this year. There's a medical drama that was really famous called House. And I was watching the first episode and he would say things like, we have to quickly get I can't even remember. I haven't watched in a few months. He would say all these like disease names. Here, intubate. There's a word intubate, where you put like anyway, it's for like they do it in like every episode. Quick, intubate. And like I didn't know any of these words, and I wouldn't understand half of the show. It'd be like, oh, he's got like a post something cropped down on the fibular bone. And then you watch like one season, 2 seasons, and then you start to understand a little bit, and you start to say like, oh, wait, why didn't he try doing this? Why didn't he try doing this? Or why did he say that word? Like I don't think it's that disease. And you start kind of having fun with the show, even though medically it's not a very accurate show, I heard. But so I get that. Even if you're a native of that language, that doesn't mean you know every word in that language.
Exactly. 맞아요. It really depends on your profession as well, your area of export. So, 네. 사람마다 달라요.
Yes. But was there anything else? Was there anything else that you find challenging in English?
Yeah, definitely. Like it does get rusty when I don't use it as much. So
when do you get to use it?
So for the past couple of years, I've mostly been using English while teaching. I teach Korean in English, and I also teach English to Korean students. So these days, English has been something I used to teach and not so much to have personal conversations, at least not as much as I used to. So it has gotten rustier. And like I told you earlier before starting recording, I do feel that I'm like quite slower now in coming up with like the best words to describe my thoughts or what I have in mind in that moment. I'm better when I know what I'm talking about, or I'm sort of like clear or organized about what I really think or what I really want to describe. But otherwise, it does get rusty, but I think it's quite natural. And I think that's part of the fun of learning a language. There's always room for improvement and there's always new things to learn. 그래서 I just accept it as something very natural, and that's the beauty beauty of learning a language or anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's also something that I accepted many years ago. Is my goal originally was, let's try to sound as close to a native as possible. But it's not, Korean is not my native language. And it will never be my native language. I can always improve my Korean. I can always get it better and better. But my Korean's never going to 100% sound like a native because I'm not a native. If my Korean sounded native, then it's because I'm native. So I dropped that goal. It's not a very reasonable goal, and it's demotivating.
Let's move on to the next part of the questions. Let's talk about the culture shock. So did you experience any sort of culture shock when you first visited Korea, and what was it, and how was it different from your initial expectation?
Yeah, I had a lot of culture shock. Some of it I can't even remember because it was so long ago, and I'm trying to think like what things what things was I really surprised at. But what I remember most was sharing food. That was so difficult for me to to understand. And like okay, it's a little bit less so nowadays. A lot of newer foods that are coming out will be served individually. So, like in Korea, when you go eat, a lot of stuff can come out where you get your individual plates and then you serve it onto your plate or you serve it
Mm-hmm.
onto your thing and eat it. But there's still a lot of Korean foods where you share all together, like when you're eating like
맞아요.
samgyeopsal or something, or like tang, anything with tang. And that just really surprised me because I thought, like, who wants to share a bowl together with someone? It would be like me sharing a
아,
soda with someone else. And if it's like, you know, my partner, then that's okay. But if it's like a random friend or if it's like, you know, extended family members or strangers, it's just so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable to me. Now I'm fine with it. Now I have no problem with it. But it really took me a lot of time to get over it because I really just kept feeling like I want my own bowl. I want my own plate. And
음,
that was a huge culture shock to me that I just couldn't understand for the
아,
longest time. And then I guess other also with foods was that some of the food is really hot and you're supposed to eat it when it's hot. I couldn't understand that.
아,
They would say like, "Oh, why aren't you 감자탕 왜 안 드세요?" Or they'd be like, or 설렁탕 왜 안 드세요? And I'd be, it's too hot.
아,
뜨거우니까 못 먹어요. 못 먹는 거예요. 안 먹는 게 아니라
아,
식히고
기다리는
있는
거.
중이거든요. So I'm like, I'm trying to let it cool down. So, or like ramen, you order ramen, it comes out, and Koreans will just start eating it right away.
맞아요.
I'm like, I can't, I'm waiting, and they're saying like, it's getting,
음,
it's like, it's called 붙는다고.
맞아요, 맞아요.
It's
It's
getting
well,
so, it's soaking up the water. Yeah, it's swelling,
맞아요.
and like, you know, it's getting too soft and mushy, and I'm like, I can't do anything about it. I can't eat it right now. It's too hot.
아, 진짜요? 그러니까 저희는 뭐냐면, 뜨거울 때 먹으면 더 맛있거든요. 그래서,
Uh,
그래서, 네, when it's hot, if you eat it, like, especially noodles, if you eat it when it's hot, it tastes more yummy. At least that's what we think.
That's what you.
So,
I yeah, I got a little better at that. Now I can eat stuff when it's hot, but I'm not as good as a Korean at doing that still. I can't do it as well
음,
as a Korean.
음. 좀 배워야겠네요. 저희 한수 배워야겠네요.
Yeah. I'm still yeah, 부족한
아직
점이 많아요.
그렇군요.
I still have a lot to learn. What
Yeah.
about you in America? Well, I guess you were younger, so do you remember any of your culture shock when you were
그러니까
here?
저는 사실 the very first time in my life when I went to the US was when it was before 911. So it was 2001
Hmm.
July. My aunt lived there, so
Ah,
I visited her for a month and I went to this camp. YMCA 캠프 알아요?
네, 네,
거기
알죠.
거기
YMCA,
맞아요.
we're gonna stay
YMCA.
at the yeah,
맞아요. 거기 다니고 그때는 이제 너무 어렸으니까 I was too young and because so everybody was nice to me because you know how adults, adore
sure.
children, especially a child that looks totally different from them. So
Yes.
I have that very good first impression, but then the real first impression started when I went back to the US when I was in college, when I was in university,
Hmm.
and 그 exchange student. I was there as an exchange student, and
Okay.
I was surprised how talkative they are in
Oh
small
yeah.
talk. 네, small talk 진짜
Yes.
많이 해요. 네, 근데 honestly, I'm not a good, like a very good communicator
Hmm.
especially in the English version of small talk. So I had a really hard time with that because I just did not know how to, properly and politely respond to some
Hmm.
of the small talk openers and even their humor, and sometimes
Yes.
ended up making like certain situations very awkward and even
Uh-huh.
like hurting, like offending other
Yeah.
people unintentionally.
I think so.
네.
Yeah, you could do
그래서
that.
네. 그래서 I'm slightly better at it now. 네, I'm slightly better at it now, but honestly, it's not easy. That's why I prefer talking with people who have experienced interacting with Korean people or people
Yeah.
who know Korean even just a bit because they know how Koreans respond in small talk and that's normal. For
Mhm.
example, like how we make this sound to let
Right,
someone know
right.
that, oh, I'm listening, I
Yeah.
understand, keep going,
Mhm.
things like that without even having to say things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But,
No, I
yeah.
I experienced the opposite of that because I love making small talk.
Oh.
I'll talk to strangers all the time. And you're just walking down the street, you see someone else and they leave a restaurant holding like a meal and you'd be like, "Did you get that? Did you get the bread this time? It's so good." And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, bro, I totally got the bread." "Oh yeah, it's awesome, huh?" No reason, just
음.
it's fun to talk with people and like that. And
음.
especially I guess maybe it's an English thing, maybe it's an American thing. I don't know
맞아요,
about
맞아요.
how it is
맞아요,
in
맞아요.
Europe, but we just
음.
love making pointless conversations with people. Maybe we're riding the
음.
elevator and we'll just be like,
맞아요, 맞아요.
"Oh, so
엘리베이터에서 맞아요.
we're at
어.
the elevator at the movie theater and we'll say, "Oh, so did you see a good movie? What'd you see?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I saw this movie." I'll be like, "Oh, I didn't like it." They'll be like, "Yeah, I hated it." But I couldn't do that in Korea, so it was really hard sometimes. Like I would want to turn and say something, but I can't. um
음.
so there are some situations when you can do that kind of thing in Korea too, but it really
아.
depends on the atmosphere. Like it
맞아요,
really depends
맞아요.
on like how that person looks. Like, does that person look like he wants you to talk with them or she? If not, then you can't
아.
do it. But some people, like, oh, that person, they want to talk. But in the US, you just do it with anyone. Like they could have a sad face and you can still talk with them, and then now they're smiling. And I just think that's something you can't really do in Korea so much. So you have to learn, like you said, like how can you talk with Korean people in like first making small talk? Like what can you say? How will they respond? They might not they might not reply to you except by making like oh, really small sounds or all day. But that's their version of replying to you. So okay.
그다음에 I'm pretty sure speaking two totally different languages did affect our personality, at least to a certain extent.
Yes.
So what sides of you do you think have been developed from speaking Korean and for me, English? So you can go
Oh,
first,
okay.
Billy. Mm.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we talked about MBTI briefly.
Yeah.
That's why the reason why people don't believe me when I say I is because
Mm.
that part of my personality, uh, the ability to start talking with people, like hanging out with people, being really open, smiling a lot, all of that, that's from speaking Korean because when I was meeting lots of Korean people, I felt like my personality changed a lot during that time.
음.
And now I'm really okay with like, you know, kind of going out meeting friends more. Although I personally like staying home too, I'm also more okay with starting to talk with people because I would do that a lot in Korea. Like when I would go to the park and just talk with older people, or I'd go to restaurants and I would talk with people there, or cafes, and I'd have friends I would talk with. So it just gave me lots of opportunities to talk with people, and
음.
that made me a more of an open person than, I guess, more of an E type of personality than I normally would be. So um yeah, speaking Korean in a good way, it affected my personality. So yeah, it made me uh more outgoing, I guess.
그렇군요. 저는 반대거든요, 오히려. So I think I
Really?
got
Oh no.
so
What happened?
I used to be an extroverted introvert. Now I think I'm a full 100% introvert. But
Hmm.
there was a time when I was an extroverted introvert, and there was a time when I spoke, English the most actively in my whole entire life. So I got my extroverted side from speaking English at that time. So it's kind of opposite from
Really?
you.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that's for you speaking English made you more of an introvert?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think it's related to what I said earlier about Americans loving to
Hmm.
have small talk. So
Okay.
I thought that, to improve my fluency, I have to, do what they do, follow
Hmm.
their, I
Okay.
don't know,
Yeah.
custom. So,
Yeah.
I think I really, maybe not try hard, but I just wanted to be, as animated and extroverted as English speaking people. And I think I naturally adopted that style,
Hmm.
that personality. So, no, it's something that came very naturally for me while speaking English. But now, 네, 지금은 다시 introvert로
you've
돌아왔어요.
gone you've gone
네.
back into your turtle shell. You're hiding again.
Or maybe this is my true self. I don't know.
That's true.
네.
Yeah, could be.
음.
영어를 할 때랑 한국말을 할 때 성격이 다르다고 느껴본 적이
아.
있어요?
네, 네. 저 지금 그래요. 네. 저 지금 그래요. 조금
I think too. I can totally hear like I can feel a different personality from you in
진짜요?
Korean and in English. Yes, yes.
어때요? What do you think is the difference? How do I sound like? How do I sound in
In
English?
English, in America,
음.
when you speak, sorry, not in America, in America language, 미국말로는요.
아메리카. 네네네.
Yeah. And when you speak English, you do kind of seem like you're outgoing, like you're gonna
음.
go to a party or you're gonna meet friends, you're gonna hang out at the beach. And then when you speak Korean, it switches.
진짜요?
It sounds like you are um like working at like a company, like you're talking to me over the phone when you speak Korean. Like you're being very
아.
polite and your voice is
맞아요,
much more
맞아요.
controlled.
그쵸, 그쵸. 근데 I think I feel a little more comfortable while I'm speaking Korean. So,
뭐
but
그렇겠죠.
maybe,
한국 사람이니까 한국말이
네네네네.
편하겠죠.
근데, that's very interesting. 되게 재밌네요. 빌리 씨는 어때요? 한국말
음,
할 때랑 영어 할 때 어떻게 달라요?
글쎄요. 저는 한국말 할 때는 영어로 못하는 말,
음,
그러니까 저의 의견이나 그런 거 한국말 할 때는 더 하는 것 같아요. 그러니까 조금 더
음,
오픈 마인드인 것 같아요. 한국말 할 때랑
아,
미국말 아까 미국말 영어랑 비교를 했을
미국어.
때요. Yeah, 미국어. I think
음.
I'm just a little bit more. I think I'm a little more open minded, a little bit more like oh that's fine, yeah, cool in Korean than in English. I think I have
아,
stronger opinions in Korean than I do in English. I think
오,
when I speak
맞아요,
English,
맞아,
I tend
맞아.
to say something like oh, yeah, I mean, I guess so. I think so. But in Korean, 예, 그런 것 같아요. 진짜 그런 것 같아요. Like I'll say things more
음,
strongly. And that's just how
어.
I've gotten used to speaking Korean.
We're going to talk about family and relationship. And I think there is some differing values when it comes to relationship as well between the two cultures. So we're less forgiving towards, this quote unquote hookup culture. And
Mhm. Right,
some
right.
we're less open to having explicit sexual conversation in comparison to Americans.
Yes, yes,
So
definitely. Koreans are very 보수적이다. They're very conservative
맞아요.
in
맞아요,
comparison.
맞아요. 그래서 I think it would be interesting to talk about that. So, like I mentioned in the opening, Billy is married to a Korean wife and he has a
Yes.
bilingual son. So, before I pry into your private life,
All right.
let's let's talk about like the general differences that we feel is between Korean versus American dating style. Obviously, before you two got married, you guys were dating each other. And my
Yes.
question is, did you notice any like relationship values or dating style that she had, your wife had, that were quite
Yes.
different from what you were
Yes.
used to as an American?
Yeah, so we I don't so without going too personal, we dated for a year before we got married. And
1년.
but we kind of knew we wanted to get married early on. Like we both felt like and it turns out my wife's also the same MBTI as I am. She's also ISFJ. Like
진짜요?
we're really similar in a lot of areas. We're really similar. But yeah, I quickly noticed a lot of things were different with dating. Like you see some of it in dramas, although dramas are not accurate to real life, but there are some aspects of romance in Korean dramas that are accurate. Things like
True.
the girl might express that she's leaving or she's upset or she wants to leave or something, but in reality she's just she's just venting.
맞아요, 맞아요.
She's just venting and she doesn't really mean anything like that. But if you were to say those types of things in American culture, it sounds like you're actually really upset, like you actually want something to change in the relationship, but really it's just, venting. And I think that's more common in, at least I only have experience dating like one person in Korea, actually dating. Um, so my wife, and that wasn't, we weren't even dating in Korea. We were dating while she was staying over in the US. I think that one of the things is, different values about family. So we have the ways that we think about relationships in Korea and the US. For example, in US, we feel like marriage or dating is between the couple. So you date who you want, you marry who you want, you move off somewhere, you live by yourself. Like dating or marriage is very much, it's about the people that are in the relationship. Whereas in Korea, it's not. Korea, it's more, it typically, obviously, there are many exceptions. Typically, you have the family is involved in everything.
맞아요, 맞아요.
So, right,
맞아요.
you would ask permission to get married. You would, you'd introduce yourself to the parents when you're dating, which, we do that in America too. But in Korea, it's more like you have to. Like it's not, it's not to be polite. It's like, no, you have to, you're supposed to ask permission to get married. Whereas in the US, we're like, I'm not marrying you, bro. I don't want to ask your permission. You're supposed to ask the dad for permission. I'm not marrying you. And then the parents would express their opinions about this relationship. They might say, oh no, no, honey, don't marry that guy. He is such and such and such, or he doesn't have this or this. And then that kind of thing happens in the US too, but typically we can say, butt out. We would say, "Gojiseyo." We would say that to our parents, and it's okay because, right, we're the ones that are making these decisions of who we date and who we marry.
Sure,
But
sure.
thank you for your opinion. In Korea, as I'm sure it's more serious, where if the parents, of course, you can date whoever you want, regardless of what your parents think. But if you don't follow what your parents say, also, they can do a lot of things. They can cut you out of their lives. They can, if they're financially supporting you, they can take away their money. They might constantly bother you. And that was really hard for me to understand. And I mean, we pretty much gotten over that, but it's still, there's some things where it's like, I have to sit down and I have to tell myself, no, this is okay. This is Korean style. And I'm used to American style. So I think though that kind of thing could be a problem, or could be in something that anyone will find if they're dating a Korean, male or female. And you have to just deal with that. You're not alone when you get married, and that's not bad. That's just different. So you marry and you marry a Korean person. Okay, now you have to understand that their family is also important now. That it's not just, it's not just about you and her or you and him, but it's also you and their family and your family. And there are going to be issues between your families, or, there aren't really many in my case, but there could be issues between your family and their family, and you should probably deal with them. You can't just say, forget their family, we're married. You can, but you're losing a lot of stuff by doing that. Not just, I'm not just talking about money, but, just family support. And for Korean people who grow up their whole life with, this responsibility they feel toward their parents, it can be really difficult to suddenly, feel like, okay, I can give them up, or I don't need their support anymore. So it's just something, it's just a different culture due to different backgrounds, the way that Koreans are raised. So I guess expect that you're not alone when you're dating someone, that there's going to become a day when you're going to pray that their family likes you. And they probably will, but it's something to think about.
You're like, I'm not married, but my sister is. And
Mhm.
네, especially as a 그 며느리,
Yeah, yeah.
daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law.
네, I think she has way more responsibilities than the opposite, sons-in-law, but that's just my
Mhm.
sister's case. Maybe
Yeah.
there are some exceptions, but 네, family life 진짜 중요하고 that's also a key to a successful marriage, long
Mhm.
term.
Yeah, I
맞아요.
think so.
So next question, Billy.
Okay.
So you have a bilingual son and you're currently living in the US with your whole family,
Yes.
right? But
Yeah.
if given a different choice, would you like your son to be raised in Korea? And why not?
Ah,
Mm,
I've thought about this a lot.
mm,
So I've already researched which would be best for us, and we both concluded, me and my wife and I, we both concluded that the U.S. is a better choice for our
mm,
kid.
mhm,
But
mhm,
the main reason is the school system, which I'm
mm,
sure you're aware of, is maybe not the best in some ways. And
mm,
we wanted a few things. We wanted our kid to speak both Korean and English, which he could do in Korea as well.
mhm,
We also wanted him to have a good childhood. We didn't want him to always be studying something. We didn't want him to
mm,
always be stuck at school, and we didn't want him to be limited to only going to schools in Korea. We wanted him to be able to, he can do whatever he wants. And if we had put him in a regular Korean school, then we know that from around, well, at least from middle school, he would be going to school like all day from morning to night, studying like crazy until he graduates high school. He would have no time for doing things he wants to do. He would
mm,
have to pass the tests, or else he's not going to be successful. And we didn't want that sort of stressful life for him.
mm,
And if we wanted to give him a higher quality education, I searched some private schools in Korea, like private foreign schools that they teach English and they're in Korea. And those were at least like 20,000 or so, $20,000 per year, at least
wow,
for that.
wow.
So I thought like, wow, I mean, can I even pay that? I don't know if I could pay that.
진짜
That's too
비싸다.
much money. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
so I realized that to give him the same quality of life, and for us to have the same quality of life in Korea, it would be a lot more expensive than in the US. But
음,
at the same time, Korean wages are lower typically than the
그렇죠.
US.
맞아요.
So yeah, so I thought, no, but in so we compromised because I really wanted my kid to attend school in Korea for just for Korean. And my
음,
wife prefers him in America, of course. So every summer we've been taking him over into Korea for 2 months or so. And this last trip was just over 2 months that he was in Korea. It was from June, July, and we left in August. And during the time he was over in school this year, he actually went to the 초등학교 in where we
음,
were staying. So
음,
he got to go to regular school. And then we had him go to a Hagwon academy after school, which was just for like fun, like just kind of a playing area. And he did that
음,
for a few hours. So he was using Korean with other Korean kids all day, Monday through Friday. And then he would come home. He would use Korean with my wife. He would use Korean with my wife's mom and family members and other things and other people. So that's for us. That's our compromise is we just take him to Korea once a year so he can
음,
go to school. But
음,
I think it would be difficult for us to do all of it in Korea just
sure.
because we would be, in our case, we would be losing some stuff that we really care about. But for someone
그렇죠.
else with maybe if they have different priorities for their lifestyle, I think Korea could be a better choice. I
음,
mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it in this podcast, but there's so many reasons why Korea could be a better choice for living in general.
음,
Um, and of course, I considered a lot of those too. So yeah, but I think for my
음.
kid though, specifically for my kid, I'll pick here.
그거 좋은 것 같아요. 미국에 살고 가끔 가다 한번
Mm.
한국에 들어와서 네, 좋은 시간 보내고 가는 것도 네, 나쁘지 않다고 생각해요. 음.
What are you gonna pick? You're not married. You don't have a kid yet. Someday,
I No, I don't think I'll ever get married.
really,
네.
really,
Or
well. Or why not? Is this appropriate for the podcast?
I mean, just it's just something that you know, or something that you're not really interested in.
No,
네,
that's fine. I'm okay.
맞아요, 맞아요. 그리고 I don't know. I feel like I'm now more gravitated towards like conservative style of dating. I feel like it's sort of dangerous to like rush into hookups or
Hmm.
relationship because that
Sure.
way it's very easy to get stuck in a toxic cycle. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it becomes very difficult to figure out if this person is right for me or if I really need a person.
Okay.
그래서 네, I'm just, taking my time. I love my life. 네, I love my
Well,
introverted
that's good.
personality. Yeah, I love my nerdy personality. So there's nothing wrong with staying single. It doesn't mean I feel like nobody's good for me. It's not that. It's just that I'm I'm protecting
A lot of
myself.
people might tell you that though. When are
People
you
tend to
getting
think that.
married?
아,
Or
맞아요,
oh, when are
맞아요.
you having a kid? And then you have a kid. Oh, when are you having a second kid? And they're like, oh,
맞아요.
we don't know yet. And they're like, oh, well, don't be selfish. Have a second kid so they can have someone to play with. Like, what do you mean? You have a second kid. You pay for them. You give birth
맞아요.
to them. Seriously.
맞아요. 맞아요. Oh, Billy. So that was my final question. And wow,
Oh.
we made it all the way from question number one to question number nine. And we sidetracked a lot in between, but
Yeah.
still it was a really fun time, honestly.
We
너무
talked for a long
재밌었어요.
time.
Very
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah,
I
저도
think
재밌었어요.
네, more than 2 hours, right?
Yeah, yeah.
네.